It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Feeling nervous when the markets drop? Worried you might be missing out when the Dow jumps 800 points that day and you missed out on that opportunity? How about that big drop in the Dow we had after Liberation Day with the tariff announcement? Well, you're not alone. These massive ups and downs are stressful for all of us, no matter how experienced we are of handling money. Today on the Sunday Watts on Wealth radio show, Barry and I will talk about how to help protect your savings and find some ways to make the most out of this shaky market. Hi, this is Ralph Hipp, welcoming you in for another information-packed hour with J. Barry Watts, the main wealth care designer at Springfield's Wealth Care Corporation. Barry, another week has gone by, another Sunday morning is here, thank goodness, and what's on your mind today?
Well, good morning, Ralph. Not only has another week gone by, but a little birdie told me that another year has gone by and that today is number 71 for you, big boy. Happy birthday.
71 and counting. You know, I know you told your kids, respect your elders, and I would never say that. You are the elder statesman to me, and I defer to your wattage wisdom on, we're going to talk about some money and financial things today, but 71 and glad to be here.
Well, congratulations on your birthday. And Ralph, I have a gift for you.
What is that?
In fact, the entire Wealth Care Choir is here, and we've got a little something we want to do for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ralph. Happy birthday to you, and many more.
I hope so, Barry. That was lovely. In tune and everything.
Well, I think, Ralph, that was the world premiere of the Wealth Care Choir.
And is that the final performance?
No, we're planning on reprising next year, and maybe we'll have the Wealth Care Orchestra join us then.
Oh, that would be lovely. Well, there's nothing more that I wanted than to be with you, spend some time with you on my birthday in 71, and I appreciate it.
Oh, now it's getting a little deep in here. Wait, let me put my boots on. Nothing more that you wanted than to spend time with me on your birthday. Ralph, it's important we tell people the truth on this show.
We will. And let me ask you one more question before we get going here. I also have a little cupcake. There's the birthday cake, 71 candles. I have a little cupcake with 2 candles on it, 2 more years till my RMD, right? Till I'm 70, 2 more years to that. Do. So I'll be checking
because you were born before 1960. Yeah, it's 2 years till your RMD. See, if I were 71, it would still be 4 years to RMD because I was born after 1960. And so my required minimum distribution out of my IRA, that's what RMD is, mine won't happen until I'm 75, but yours will happen at age 73. You're absolutely right.
So I'm counting down on the clock toward that. I'm being proactive. And Barry, when we see another day or week of what's happened in the market, how important it is for us retirees all around the Ozarks to be proactive and be intentional. And let's get going here in a certain direction.
Well, Ralph, I think we have to define the word proactive.
Okay.
I mean, what does proactive mean? Does that mean I'm supposed to do something today? Well, maybe. But also maybe not. Really, I think proactive meant do something previously. It's all about what you've done up to this point. And if you haven't done anything up to this point, well, better late than never. But the point is, you should have built for retirement an all-weather portfolio as a part of your overall retirement plan. And your retirement plan, by the way, covers a lot more things than just your investment accounts. Your retirement plan has to do with your taxes and has to do with your estate plan. It has to do with your long-term care and your Medicare, and all of those kinds of things get filtered into it. So investment is only really about 20% of your retirement plan. But with that 20%, it's important to have built an all-weather plan. So hopefully you were proactive and already did that. Now, being proactive, Ralph, you know what that involves.
What does that involve, Barry? As I'm listening to your wisdom here.
Well, it's going to involve having some protected principal.
Yes.
And in times like this, when the markets are crazy, and they are crazy, I mean, the volatility is just everywhere, just depending on what Trump says next, it shoots up and everybody's optimistic, happy days are here again, or it goes in the dumper. We're just all over the place. So in times like this, it's comforting to have some money set aside that is not in the stock market. And we actually manage that money for our clients too. We call it protected principal. And the reason it's so important to have protected principal is because you have much less to fear. Let me give you an example. I had a guy come see me last week. He is 64 years old and he's ready to retire. And he and his wife decided they wanted 60% of their money in protected principal. Now, there's no right amount or wrong amount. That's the amount that fit them. So it's customized to everyone. The individual gets to decide what the really right amount is. So we put 60% of their money aside in protected principal, and then we did the math. Based on the income that they're going to need, they have enough money protected that it will provide income for them for 24 years, and that's if there was no growth, and there will be growth. But if there was no growth, well, I say there will be growth. Technically, I should stop and say, we hope there's growth. Well, and I feel confident there would be, but I can't make that promise. That's not a guarantee. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results, as they say. So here's the point. They've got 24 years of income. So he's 64 now. So that means until he's 88 years old, he doesn't have to worry about where his income checks are coming from. Now, here's the question, Ralph. If he's got 60% protected, where's the other 40%? The other 40% in his case is in the stock market. But he doesn't have to be worried about whether it went up or whether it went down today. It can have a lot of volatility, and that's fine for him because it's 24 years before he's going to need to touch that other money, at least. And Ralph, you ask if we should be proactive. I would say that's as proactive as I know how to be. And that's the kind of proactivity that we bring to our clients at the Wealthcare Corporation.
I hope you're not a first-time listener to our show, friends. I hope you're with us every Sunday morning. And if you love the way Barry talks about finances and money, get with him. That number in the Ozarks, 417-200-3500. If you're a longtime listener of our show, you know that number by heart, 417-200-3500 to Barry at the Wealthcare Corporation. How do you help people around Springfield, Barry, figure out, are we taking on too much risk or in the market or in the portfolio, or we're not taking enough risk? And I loved what you said about, we could think in terms of 24 years before we would touch that money. What about the risks we have right now?
Well, Ralph, I think that's a game changer, because if that guy's got 24 years before he really has to be concerned about touching that money, where was your account 24 years ago? Well, it was worth a lot less than it is today. In fact, there's never been a period of time that long where the market didn't grow. So the odds of his account growing over that 24 years is very high and growing significantly during that time. So the point is, if you've got enough protected principal, you can afford to take risk with the rest of your account. And that is very helpful and can be a very positive thing to do. Now, here's an interesting little fact for you, Ralph. We actually have to talk a lot of people out of risk because they've spent all of their earning years putting money away and understanding that they needed to take risks in the market. And so they are taking risks in the market. And they're used to that. And they maybe say that old saw that I don't think is necessarily true. Well, it'll always come back. Well, maybe or maybe not. In Japan, it took over 34 years for their market to come back. How old will you be in 34 years? So sometimes we have to talk people out of the amount of risk that they want to take because it's just not necessary. And let me explain why it's not necessary. If you have enough money to last till age 100, well, then why do you need to take more risk to achieve something that you don't need? So the goal isn't to, match the market and get everything that's out of the market. The goal, Ralph, is to have income to last for your lifetime. And if you've got the income you need for your lifetime, then taking more risk may not be the right decision for you. And the way we've got a number of exercises that we help people go through to figure that out and figure out how much risk they should take. And those exercises are kind of fun, and you don't have to sweat with these exercises, Ralph.
Very good, sir. Hey, as President Trump has been announcing his tariffs this month, I want to ask you about people who are putting their head in the sand. Well, hey, Trump said there's going to be pain and disruption. I'm not doing anything right now. Just let it ride, let it wait. Or I need to be doing something right now. So where are we? Where is our sweet spot? I guess it depends on who we are financially. But if we're feeling uncertain with all the pressure we're facing right now, is April or maybe May, is this a good time to get a review of our plan? Or should we, let's ride it out and wait for a while, maybe till the end of the year? What are your thoughts on that?
I think ride it out and wait is your enemy, Ralph. This notion of, well, I'm just going to ride it out and wait. If you'll think about it, what that really is I didn't know what decision to make, so I'm just not going to make a decision. And I don't think that's the right decision. So yes, I think that this is a good time to be reviewing your plan. Now, hopefully, your plan has already been well reviewed. It has been for our clients. And one of the things I notice, Ralph, is sometimes our clients even have this feeling that their plan isn't well reviewed because they've spent 50 or 60 years in that mentality that they're not quite prepared. So when we get them solidly prepared and they feel good about it and they say they feel good about it, well, a few months later, they forgot that they were solidly prepared, and they're living back in all of that emotion that they brought with them all those years, and that is being exacerbated. How's that for a $10 word? It's being made worse. It's being made worse by all your old colleagues in the media who are reporting the news of the day. The sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. So, Ralph, I think that there's plenty of reason for us to be paying attention right now to the turbulent economic chaos that is around us. But there's a great difference between paying attention and being worried. And I'm personally not worried at all. Not worried for me, not worried for my clients.
Good.
I believe we're headed in a good direction. I think we're going to come out on the other side in good stead. I'm a little disappointed that the American citizens can't realize that. We have a client this week who he refused to put any more money to work. And he said, don't even call me about it for 4 years. I'm just going to leave it where it is. And the knucklehead, he's left it in a bond fund. And there are people in the last 3 or 4 years that have lost as much as 30% owning bonds. So he's not in a very safe spot. But he said, I'm not going to move anything for 4 years. So that was his Trump protest. And he's a union guy. I kind of expected him to land in that particular space. But and so we do work with people who don't like President Trump. By the way, I don't know if I like President Trump personally, although I understand that he can be a charming and entertaining guy to sit and visit with. I've never sat and visited with him.
I've heard, he is from one extreme to the other. Can be very, very confrontational or very gracious. And he goes
of course, he's Donald Trump. He's from one extreme to the other. That's right. Exactly what we get with him. And that's what the markets are reacting to right now. You know, certainly these tariffs are one extreme, but then, you know, he can change his mind in a heartbeat, and he does sometimes. Here's the deal, folks. I think this is necessary medicine to put the country on its strong feet. Mm-hmm. I didn't say that very eloquently, but I think this is the medicine we need to take to make us better, is what I'm trying to say. And I think there's going to be some pain. And Trump said there would be pain. He was absolutely right. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that, though. And I think this is a part of the pain. And if we don't make the country better, if we don't endure the pain, what ultimately winds up happening is the whole country dies. Because we are on a crash course with death right now economically. And if you don't know that, you need to wake up and smell the coffee. You need to pull your head out. We are on a crash course with disaster economically. And it's not because of Donald Trump. It's because of Republicans and Democrats together for 30, 40, 50 years having spent money we didn't have. And that had to stop. Now, what has to happen for you, Ralph, or for our listeners is they need to just be sure that they have designed themselves a retirement plan that is set to weather all of this storm. That needs to have some protected principle. Yeah. And, you know, I would say if you don't have at least 10 years worth of protected principle, probably don't have enough. That's a good place to think about starting. And if you don't even know exactly what protected principle is, by the way, that's not just money left at the bank. That's not protected principle. That's not money in CDs. CDs historically don't keep up with inflation. That's not the way we're talking about doing this. We're talking about some things that if the market goes down, you don't lose any money. Somebody out there is going to say, I bet he's talking about those annuities. Annuities do qualify as protected principle, but they're only one of several different things that do. And there are places where those fit and there are places where they don't fit. So this is not what this is about. What it's about, Ralph, is you. It's about you being able to retire and be comfortable all the way to the end of your life, which we hope for you is at least 29 more years, Ralph, 29 more birthdays, because that would get you to age 100. And have the money you need all the way to age 100 and not have to worry about watching the news and what's going on with Trump and tariffs and what the market's doing in reaction to all that stuff. So what I would suggest is this. if this resonates with you, and if you haven't gotten these protections in place in your own life, call us at the Wealth Care Corporation. Let us sit down with you, review what you have, see what it is that you want to do, see if there are places where you can improve your protection and reduce your worries. That's what we specialize in doing, helping people have retirement confidence.
417-200-3500 is that number for you. And he said you, Ralph, but we're talking you listening on the radio, you as well, to have your plan in place and everything that's going on. 417-200-3500. Just a quick story. I'm spending my 71st birthday here today with Barry Watts on the radio. I was 33 years old when I started on News Team 33. Ronald Reagan was our president back at that time, the first time when I moved to Springfield. That's how long that's been. Former KSPR anchorman Ralph Hipp here with Barry Watts with you. And I'm 71 now, loving it. Even more than before being on the radio with Barry. We'll take a break and be back with more of our show, our main discussion of the day, right after this.
Barry Watts makes retirement planning easy with his kit, which includes a retirement income planning booklet and key information on taxes, Social Security, and income. Request your Wealth Care Kit by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Text KIT to 417-200-3500.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
Retirement planning made simple with Barry Watts. His kit includes a retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, and more. Get your Wealth Care Kit by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Text KIT to 417-200-3500.
Many people spend decades building their retirement nest egg to put the money in and crack it and take it out, only to discover having big savings isn't nearly enough. Just like your beautiful house needs a strong foundation financially to withstand all the storms out there, your retirement plan needs proper structuring, preserving against the challenges that are ahead for us this year and next year. So, Barry, let's get back to it with our main topic today. What are some of the, what we call the hidden obstacles that could derail even a well-funded retirement plan?
Well, Ralph, I don't know the degree to which these obstacles are hidden, but yet if you're not thinking about them, they might as well be hidden. There are some important things that you have to consider in developing a retirement plan. And most people don't. What most people consider in retirement is just how big their 401k account is and how much money they've accumulated. And, how much you've accumulated isn't nearly as significant as how you're going to get money out of that account and what the impact of that is going to be on taxes, for example, and on Social Security and whether it's taxable and on the cost of your Medicare and things of that nature. So money is only about 20% of the retirement calculation. The other 80% are other issues. So, Ralph, I think one of the biggest things that can impact people in retirement that they don't know about or they don't think about and ever dream is their biggest risk. And it's simply this. Your biggest risk in retirement is tax rate risk. We believe and have good information behind this belief that taxes stand a good chance of doubling during our retirements. doubling. I said twice as much in tax as before.
Yikes.
And you say, well, Barry, that is just ridiculous. That taxes could double. Let me tell you why it's not ridiculous. You're locked in probably to a thought that about a third of your money goes to taxes, because that's sort of kind of how it's been all your working life. But if you look back historically across our country, we've had many times when tax rates were as high as 60 or 70, at one point as high as 94% in taxes. So the idea of tax rates doubling is not out of the realm of possibility. And when you look at the reasons why, the biggest reason is because of the interest that has to be paid on the government debt. And the government debt has swollen to $37 trillion now. And with interest rates being higher, it's beginning to be harder for the government to satisfy that. So I think tax rate risk is one of the big, big obstacles that could be in your way. There are other things that come up, like healthcare costs. You can't have your head in the sand on healthcare costs and how you're going to pay for those. And then I think things like this recent market volatility, you got to have a plan to offset that, Ralph. Those are things that if you just walk around with your head in the sand, you're going to be in trouble. Now, here's what we want to do for folks, Ralph, is we try to let them keep their head in the sand if they wanted to, only because we have taken our heads out of the sand for them. So I had a guy in just last week. He's 75 years old. He's retired. He's got a couple of $1 million, and he's driving a school bus because he likes being out and about, and he didn't want to just remain retired. And his wife was busy with the grandkids, so he's driving the school bus. And he said to me, Barry, I don't pay much attention to this. I don't really even look at my statements. I don't really worry about it because I know it's your job and you do that for me. Well, I don't know that he's got his head in the sand, but he could if he wanted to. That's the point. He's enjoying his life. He's not worrying about his money. And that's what we try to do for our clients at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Friends, if you're in retirement in the Ozarks already and enjoying the view, are you really looking at the view? Are you so worried about money right now you can't enjoy the view? So Barry wants to help you relax, retire, and enjoy it, and be confident in the direction you're going. So that's what our show is all about. Once again, at 417-200-3500 for the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry and I are talking about the hidden obstacles out there this year. One challenge catching a lot of us off guard in retirement, Barry, is that the tax burden could be higher than during their working years. You're looking at even higher than when you were drawing a paycheck. So can you go over some strategies that will help protect our retirement income from too much taxation right now?
Well, Ralph, one of the ones that we've been seeing a lot of recently that I think are extremely helpful to people is eliminating their capital gains taxes. And there's a way that we can manage how your capital gains get paid. So effectively, it feels like it eliminates them. And there's actually a check that has to be written, but you get it back on the other side. So it kind of takes care of that. Here's an example. I had a client, a young man, in fact, who came in, and he had a $400,000 capital gain on some stock. He worked for one of these techie kind of companies that don't pay their guys any salaries, but they give them a lot of stock. And so as a result, he's got a $400,000 capital gain. Well, we can totally erase that $400,000 capital gain so he doesn't wind up giving that money to the tax man. In fact, we can not only do that, but in the process of doing that, we can create an income that comes to him every month tax-free because we set it up correctly. So if you've got capital gains from the sale of real estate, from the sale of farm, sale of a business, sale of stock, you need to learn about the capital gains strategies that you can use that are currently on the tax books that allow you to avoid having to pay on those capital gains. Now, one of the things, Ralph, that causes people to pay too much tax in retirement and tax on their Social Security is actually having too much money in their IRA account. Because, as you'll learn in 2 years, when you, Ralph, have to pay required minimum distributions, once you reach the required minimum distribution age, you have given up the right to control your taxes because the government tells you when to pay them. The government tells you what bracket you're going to be in. The government tells you how much you have to distribute. That's why it's called required minimum distributions. And the government tells you how much tax you have to pay on it. And so a good solution can be to use Roth conversions now. There was one guy in a class I was teaching over at Missouri State here a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of reared up in the middle of class and he blurted out an expletive. And he said, yeah, but if I do that conversion, I'm going to have to pay the blankety blank, 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 blank taxes now. And he's right. He is going to have to pay those taxes. But the point is, if taxes are going higher, like we think they're going to, then it's better to pay those taxes now. And I would say this, Ralph, don't buy into the myth, and I believe it is a myth, that Trump's going to make taxes go away. We're going to go from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, to the External Revenue Service and fund the country on nothing but tariffs. I just don't think that's likely to happen. It's a nice idea. I don't know whether it would work economically. I'm not sure, but there's going to have to be a lot of heavy things moved around in order for that to occur. And I don't think it'll happen. So that's why taxes are going to be such a problem in retirement.
Very good, sir. All right. Tax-efficient strategies, what Barry and I are talking about on the Watts on Wealth radio show. And let's get into healthcare, Barry. If you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, are you doing pretty good health-wise, or will suddenly some long-term healthcare issue pop into your life? So healthcare expenses are another huge retirement planning hurdle and obstacle. How do we get ready for those costs? And if it happens suddenly, hey, we've got dementia, Alzheimer's, we've got nursing home care on the horizon. What do we do?
Well, Ralph, I think the first thing you do is pay attention. And the reason that comes to mind is one of the things I'm thinking about is if you fail to enroll in Medicare Part B when you turn 65 years old, there's a penalty for failing to enroll. And the penalty can be quite rich. It costs you 10% for every 12 months that you fail to enroll. So I had a lady in my office who's 71 years old. Now, she should have been covered by Medicare for the past 6 years, but she's still employed. She's still working. So she's still on her employer's health care, and she hadn't bothered to ever communicate with Medicare at all. And the problem is if you don't communicate with Medicare at some point in the process and you fail to get enrolled, and by the way, she hasn't triggered the enrollment problem yet, well, you could lose as much as 10% in a 12-month period of time because the cost goes higher. And so we did see a person come in a couple of years ago who for 5 years had just not enrolled in Medicare because they just didn't enroll. They just were healthy and they didn't feel like they needed to do it. And the result is that when they do enroll, and they are going to need health care at some point, they're going to pay 50% more for their Medicare than other people pay. So get enrolled in Medicare when you turn age 65 or when you separate from your current employer. That's really important. Secondly, you need a really solid supplemental plan to pay for what Medicare won't pay for. And we've got a Medicare specialist here in our shop, a guy by the name of Matt Dean. And at the Wealth Care Corporation, Matt sits with all of our clients to talk about how to make sure their Medicare coverages are solid and in place. Here's what you have to be aware of, Ralph. Healthcare costs over the past 5 years have increased by about 25%. And if you do the math, what that means is they'll roughly double every 20 years. So when you're 91, Ralph, it's going to cost twice as much for healthcare as it does today when you're 71. If you live to be 100, that means those last 9 years, healthcare is going to be really expensive. You need a plan to pay for that. And that's not even talking about long-term care, which could come up on you. So those are things that you really have to consider and be prepared to take advantage of. And we'll help you with that at the Wealth Care Corporation.
He will indeed at 417-200-3500. Well, time to stop. Let's see what's happening in the news. We'll be back in just a few minutes here. This is Ralph Hipp with Barry Watts on the Watts on Wealth radio show. So after the news, we'll be back with the next half of our show. Hey, don't go away.
Uncertain about your retirement future? Let Barry Watts help you retire with certainty. Schedule a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. Retirement Planning Made Simple with Barry Watts. His kit includes a retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, and more. Get your Wealth Care Kit by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Text KIT to 417-200-3500.
All right, well done there. Catching up on some town hall news. And Ralph Hipp and Barry Watts, we're back with more of the Watts on Wealth radio show this beautiful Sunday morning in the Ozarks. And you can text the word VISIT. You can text on this Sunday to 417-200-3500. Give them a call tomorrow. And golly, Barry, I believe we can also text the word book to get your book, Watts on Wealth. Is that just a text away, right?
That's right. If you'll just send the word book, type it out, B-O-O-K. And text it to that exact same phone number that Ralph just gave you, well, then we will actually send an autographed copy of the book out to you. so that you'll have the book to read. And I'm always enjoying it when I meet people for the first time and they say, "I've already read your book.
Great.
I already understand who you are." And that is really, really helpful, I think.
Well, that's good. And okay on that, BOOK to text and get your own copy of the book, and listening to the radio show, watching us on television. Barry and I are on all the Springfield local channels, and listening to our radio show, you'll be well set for what's ahead. A bumpy ride for sure. Barry and I are talking about the hidden obstacles that are out there to your retirement future, and it's clear preserving what you've saved, preserving your retirement does require careful planning and strategy, and hopefully from Barry Watts. Barry, let's talk about, we mentioned obstacles. How do you help people identify what they are and address those hurdles that are out there?
Well, Ralph, the good news is you don't have to identify them because we already have identified them. And you don't have to address them because we will address them for you with your permission. So we've kind of done the heavy lifting for the clients at the Wealthcare Corporation because we've figured all those out, and we've actually incorporated them into our 6 steps to retirement confidence process, which is the process that all the clients at Wealthcare go through to be sure that their retirement works like they want it to and that they can breathe easily during retirement. So let's just think about what those steps might be. Well, one of the biggest concerns people have in retirement is running out of money. So we want to be sure that you have enough income to last until you're 100 years old. I understand you might not live to be 100, but what if you do? We just don't want to run out of money at age 85. So we want to make certain that you've got enough income, and we've got a process that we go through to figure out what your income needs to be to pay all your bills, and you get to tell us what the amount of those bills are. So we don't tell you how much you can spend. Sometimes people come to us and they want to know what they can spend in retirement. How much retirement can I have? No. Start with how much do you want? Tell me what your income needs to be. We call that your sitting on the porch number. How much needs to be deposited into your account each month for you to be retired? And then we'll do the math and figure out whether or not you've got enough pension money and enough Social Security money and enough saved up in your retirement accounts to meet the income to age 100. That's step number 1 of the 6 steps. The next step, Ralph, is taxes. We want to get you to the 0% tax bracket if possible, and about a third of people can get to the 0% tax bracket, and that is not necessarily the poorest third. It's just people who've planned the most carefully and judiciously. I mentioned in the top of this morning's show how important it is to protect some principal. We want to be sure that everybody has principal protection in place. That is step number 3, and it sure helps to have protected principal to go through volatile times like this in the economy and the markets. We want to help you think about Medicare and about long-term care. How are you going to pay those bills? There are strategies, by the way, that can help you to use the existing assets you have to pay for those expenses and to, in some cases, pay for them for maybe 15 or 20 cents on the dollar. Really, really important. That's step number 4. And then finally, step number 5 is how we do your estate planning and your legacy planning, getting your assets transferred where they need to go, but also how you convey to subsequent generations those things that money cannot buy and death cannot take away, those closely held personal values. Those are the 5 steps. The 6th step, Ralph, is we just revisit every year those 5 steps. And those 5 steps are the potential obstacles that people are often concerned about.
That is the foundation of what Barry Watts does, and get with him. Take that first step toward your 6 steps to retirement confidence by giving Barry a call. Once again, if you're a texter, are you a texter? So text visit, V-I-S-I-T, text visit to 417-200-3500 to reach out to Barry. We've talked about taxes, healthcare costs. We're living longer. What do you say to people all around the Ozarks listening into our show, Barry? They're worried about whether they have adequately gotten ready for these retirement challenges that we're talking about.
Well, what I would say is you don't have to do this alone. And mostly I see people who are scared and wringing their hands because they've been doing it alone. They've been figuring it out. I will have people actually bring spreadsheets in and lay them out on my conference table. Please don't do that. I don't need your spreadsheets. You know, I guess I would say this. When you go to the doctor needing surgery, do you take your own steak knives? Obviously not.
No.
and I don't need your spreadsheets. I got my own. I know how to do this. Been doing this 32 years. I am an expert on this particular topic. Now, what I am interested in is I'm interested in who you are as a person and what you want to accomplish. And I want to hear about what you're afraid of too, because Ralph, the best medicine for fear is good fact. facts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all the information you bring us out of your tax return, out of your income needs, out of your pension and Social Security, out of the money that you have saved up. We're going to take all of that and we're going to assemble it into a set of facts that you can rest firmly on rather than fear. You know, the news media will drive you crazy with fear. And that's how they sell. Television advertising is getting you to watch because they keep you afraid. Coming next, we've got breaking news. And I listen every time. And you know what? The breaking news is like 4 days old. They don't have any breaking news. You know, I'm always thinking when they have breaking news, they're going to say missiles are incoming or something like that. There's been a massive typhoon hit Hawaii. Or no, it's nothing like that. It's like the governor's in an argument with the people across the aisle. Oh, please quit with the breaking news. You know, there's a story we all learned when we were little kids about the little boy who cried wolf.
Yes.
Well, they might, the TV stations, Ralph, your people in TV world might as well be on station WOLF, wolf, because they're crying wolf, 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 and I'm sick and tired of it. I had a guy, by the way, last week in a class I was teaching, accused me of crying wolf. And what
that got you going, didn't it?
Well, it did. He got himself caught. Here's why. Because in the conversation I was having at that moment, I was crying wolf, but what he didn't understand is the very next paragraph of that conversation, I was going to be showing the other side of the story where there was nothing to be afraid of and talking about how we don't know which of those realities are going to be ours. So we have to plan for both of them. And Ralph, the plan that we prepare for people to deal with fear and knowing whether they're prepared is called a retirement income plan. It's a very simple approach to seeing whether or not you have enough income, hopefully guaranteed income, to last you every year until you're 100 years old. And we don't just say, yeah, you do, no, you don't. We actually say, okay, look, at age 71, this is going to be your income. Ralph, at 72, this is going to be your income. And in your case, Ralph, in 2 years when you turn 73, looky here, your income is going to take a little bump because now you're having to take your required minimum distributions. And your taxes are going to take a little bump because you have to pay taxes on that. We build a retirement income plan that goes through each of those years. And the result is that people are resting on facts. They don't have to be afraid of market volatility. They've got protected principal going for them. So what I want to say is let us help you. There's no need to be afraid. There's no reason to wring your hands. There's no reason to wonder whether or not you've called the right people. The answer is you haven't called the right people until you've called the Wealth Care Corporation. And when you call us, and you have to call, if you don't raise your hand and say, I need help, would you please help me? We're not going to bother you. We're not going to show up on your doorstep. There's a famous company here in town that comes to your doorstep, knocks on the door, and basically asks how much money you've got, and tells you they want they want you to buy a bond, or they want you to buy a stock or something like that. Dumb strategy, in my opinion. What I want to know is, what do you want in retirement? How much income do you want in retirement? Let's see if you got enough money put together to get there. And let's see what adjustments we can make to stretch your money, make it last longer, protect you from volatile markets like this. That's the way we help people at Wealth Care.
Let's get back into one of your famous strategies, one of your favorite strategies, the buckets, Barry. We've discussed the 3 buckets, and a lot of financial pros like you do recommend this for retirement planning. So let's go over the 3 bucket strategy and how that'll help us balance our protection and growth.
Well, Ralph, actually, we do use 3 buckets sometimes for certain things, but for this conversation, which is really just about protection and growth, that's really only 2 buckets.
Right.
So let's focus on those 2 buckets if we might. Now, one of those buckets needs to be a protected income bucket. And so there needs to be an amount of money. And that amount of money is determined by you because you get to say how much of your money you want protected. And some people say, well, I don't want any protected because they intuitively think protected means it won't grow. That's not true. Probably won't grow as well as the money that's not protected, but it also won't lose as badly as the money that's not protected. In fact, the very fact that it's protected means that it should not lose at all. And so, Ralph, we need to know, first of all, how much money do you need protected? And I referenced earlier the person that I was working with who had 60% of their assets in their protected income bucket, and that was going to last them for 24 years. So it's going to be 24 years before they need to tap into any of their other money, which is in the growth bucket. And the growth bucket 24 years from now is highly likely to have more money in it then than it does today, because there's certainly never been a 24-year period in the history of the American economy where the economy and the stock market didn't grow and expand in that 24-year period of time. So in 24 years, when they need to tap into it, they will have additional money they can use to put more funds into their protected income bucket to last for the next 24-year period of time. So really, when you're in retirement, one way to think about it is a two-bucket approach. I got my protected bucket for income, and I've got my growth bucket for the future.
All right. So is the bucket approach good for you? Barry has almost always seen this work. So discuss the bucket strategy. Mention that. I don't have any text the word bucket, Barry. We don't have that. But when they get with you, text the word visit, get with Barry Watts, talk over the bucket strategy as we are wrapping up our conversation of getting over the hurdles that are out there in your retirement finances. Barry, time for another break here. We're going to get to quarter four, not of the year, Q4 of the show. And we'll answer some of your questions for Barry Watts and what he says in return to you right after this break.
Concerned about your retirement plans? Barry Watts can guide you to a confident retirement. Set up a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealthcare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through Wealthcare Asset Management, LLC.
Picture your first day of retirement. What does it look like? Let's make that dream a reality. Start with Barry Watts' Wealth Care Kit. It includes vital information on the biggest retirement challenges. To get your kit, text KIT to 417-200-3500. That's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back into our Sunday radio get-together on the Watts on Wealth show. Barry Watts gets all kinds of really good questions from all of y'all out there each and every week about all things dealing with retirement. So let's go into our Watts on Wealth mailbag and go over some of those questions. And Barry, you're ready, right?
I am ready, Ralph.
Ready,
I always
set, go.
enjoy this part of the show. I love answering people's questions and helping them with the things that they're concerned about.
And Barry also answers your questions on the TV show. We take what you write into him, and some of the things we talk about on the television show are based on what you write in terms of what you're asking. So here's our first question on the radio side for this Sunday. I've been worried about the markets, or who hasn't been, right? I'm worried about the markets and if we'll continue to see a lot more volatility ahead. I don't want to take any more big losses. How long should I be in cash before I try to get back into the market? So a question about, do we time the market?
Well, what I want to know is, you're in cash? You're all in cash? And none of the roughly 1,000 client accounts that we manage are all in cash at this moment. So in my opinion, if you're all in cash, you have made a mistake. And that's a mistake born out of fear and uncertainty. There are ways that you can keep yourself still exposed to the stock market. So if it goes up, you go up, and be 100% protected from the market going down. So if you're all in cash, what that tells me is you don't have a plan. And whoever you're working with, as an advisor, didn't know that there are ways they could protect you without tying your money up in one of those long-term annuities that wrap you up for a lot of years. And we do sometimes use some of those, but not exclusively. They're just a part of the overall mix. I always know you got bad advice when you come in to see me and you lay it down on my table, and what you've got is 100% of your money essentially in an annuity contract. That is a bad strategy, proving you have an advisor who didn't know what he was doing. So, Ralph, I don't have an answer to the question, how long should you be in cash? The answer is, I said I don't have an answer, and then I'm answering it. Listen to me. Here's the deal. You should, I guess, be in cash until the market's ready to come back, but I don't necessarily know what that is. So what I have for you instead is rather a recommendation. Let's design a retirement plan for you that takes away worry and fear and replaces it with confidence because you know your numbers. And then you may have some of your money in cash at certain points, but by no means all of it. So this idea, I'm going all to cash, yeah, that's a pretty amateur way to play it, in my opinion.
Our next question. I've worked at a hospital here in the Ozarks for about 18 years now. I was planning to work a full 20 before I retired. Now I'm thinking about retiring earlier than I'd planned on. Before I give them my notice, Barry, how do I make sure I'm ready to retire?
Well, the only way I know to make sure you're ready to retire is you have to have a retirement income plan. I told you about that earlier. That's a plan that tells you what your income is going to be every year between now and the time that you die. So we go out to 100. So if you come see us at 71, Ralph, you get a 29-year plan. But if you come see us at 61, you get a 39-year plan. And if you come see us at 51, you get a 49-year plan. And so if you know what your income is going to be every year between now and retirement and know whether or not that income's coming in and can fund your sitting on the porch retirement number, well, then you know whether or not you're ready to retire. It's really that simple. And a retirement income plan is the first step that we go through on our 6 steps to retirement confidence. We'd love to do that for you at the Wealthcare Corporation.
Okay, Barry, thanks for that. A couple of friends I work with, they're retiring at 62 and already claiming their Social Security benefits. I guess that's the first year you'd be able to do that. So I thought I had to wait till 70 to take it. Barry, what's your answer to that question?
Well, I thought the question was going to be, they're taking it at 62. Should I take mine at 62? And I was going to ask that question that my mom and dad used to ask me when I was younger than junior high age. If all your friends went down to Kimberling City and jumped off the bridge, would you do that too? So it's amazing to me, when you've got a group of 15 guys who work on the assembly line or in the manufacturing plant or something like that, when one of them decides to do something and he opens up his lunch bucket and pours his coffee out of his thermos and begins to tell them what he's going to do, suddenly the other guys want to do it too. My dad used to say, one pill works them all. So the point is, it's not what other people are doing. It's what you need to do. And the way to figure out the best time to take Social Security is to do it in the context of a retirement income plan. So, for example, this week we had somebody come in who was planning to take it at 69, but she was asking, maybe I should take it at 67. She's 64 now. We're figuring out, in her case, she probably should take it at 64 instead, because she actually has a grandchild that she's adopted who's living in her home. And because she's adopted that grandchild, she's going to be able to get Social Security on that grandchild, not just her, but on that grandchild when she finally signs up for Social Security. So obviously, in her case, she needed to take it earlier. So there is no one answer that fits all of this. It depends on everyone's situation. I will not take my Social Security until I'm 70 because I'm working. I've got a good business. I've got plenty of income. I feel good. Now, if something happened to my health and it totally went away, I might change that decision. But right now, I plan to wait until 70 because that will give the maximum Social Security check to me, and it will allow me to leave Kelly with the maximum Social Security check. Kelly's mama will turn 90 this year. And Kelly's an exercising fiend, and she eats right, counts every last calorie. Just drives me nuts.
Oh my.
And so Kel could certainly be 95 or 98 or 100.
Sure.
She's one of those people. So I want to leave Kelly with the biggest check possible. And that's one of the reasons I will wait until later. So what I would say to you is you need a Social Security claiming strategy performed for you. Jeremy Zickifus in our office is our Social Security strategy specialist, and he will help you to do the math to see what your 2 or 3 best options are and talk you through which one maybe you should select.
Jeremy Zickifus, he's your Jay-Z. Have you heard of Jay-Z?
He is our Jay-Z. I hadn't thought
You've
about
got
that.
a Jay-Z,
I'll start calling him Jay-Z.
And he'll go, thanks a lot, Ralph. Now that's all I'm hearing. Oh, well, anyway. When we listen to these radio shows, Barry and all the ones that are out there and people call in with their questions, well, that doesn't apply to me. But if anything you hear on the show does apply to you, if we're really resonating with you, give Barry a call. I heard you and Ralph talking about a situation. I'm in that situation. So give Barry a call. Get with him at 417-200-3500 is the number to reach Barry Watts. All right, here's another one, Barry. We're not planning to retire for a few more years, but we've had some health issues come up. Now, my wife is not healthy enough to work anymore. I'm thinking that I should stop working to take care of her. Can you help us evaluate if this is a smart thing to do in our situation? So I'm going to quit to take care of her because she can't work either.
I'm sorry to hear that your wife isn't doing well, and I commend you for being willing to step aside from your plans in order to care for her, because that's the way we're supposed to do it. But it's difficult, and the question really is a math question. If we do this financially, is it going to be okay if she lives, and is it going to be okay if she dies and I'm left without her? And Ralph, the only way to do that is to do a retirement income plan and then stress test it. And the stress test on the retirement income plan, the first stress test would be, well, what if she dies? He quits work early. She dies. Is he going to have enough money to live on throughout his lifetime? That's a stress test. But another stress test we would do is, what if she just remains sicker and sicker and he can no longer care for her? So she has to go into a long-term care facility. And so the expense gets kind of high, upwards of $10,000 a month. Then what is that going to do to their overall retirement income plan? And if he's spending that kind of money on her and she lives long in that facility, will he still have enough money to get him to age 100 if he should live that long? So these are the kinds of things that we do in the process of retirement income planning. We do an analysis on what happens if one of the couple die early. We do an analysis on what happens if they both live to 100. We do an analysis on what happens if one of them goes into long-term care. And we can look at each different scenario and determine what the best thing for them to do is. So I would encourage you to come over and see us. Let us do a retirement income plan for you, and we'll be able to tell you how your situation is going to work out no matter how it works out.
All right, now we're going to add some of the kids into the mix on this next question, Barry. One of our daughters had to move back in with us this year. We've been supporting her financially. And our oldest son, he lost his job, so we're helping him cover his mortgage. At least he's in his house. We're helping him cover his mortgage for a few months until he finds work again. We're happy that we have the means to help them. Now we're wondering, can we still retire next year after doing all this stuff?
As you were going through that question, something just hit my brain. I thought my first response was, well, dadgummit, here they are retired and having to support these kids again.
I know.
Why does everybody have to support their kids? And then I thought about Madison and Sydney, my daughters, and
Right.
Zach, my son-in-law. And there is nothing under the sun that I wouldn't do for them if they fell on hard times. So I get it. I understand why you're supporting them, and I say good for you. And I'm so glad that you have the resources to be able to do that.
You and Kelly have the means.
Yeah. Well, and Kelly and I do have the means, and we're very, very grateful to God for that. You know, the Bible says it is God who gives you the power to get wealth. And we know that at our house, and we never fail to stop and be grateful. So the question this person is asking is, if I keep helping my kids, how much help can I give to my kids until it begins to impact my retirement? And I don't know the answer because I haven't seen your retirement income plan. But if we do a retirement income plan for you and we build into it, you're going to spend another $20,000 or $30,000 a year or whatever supporting the kids. Are you still going to be able to retire next year and have money all the way to age 100? I don't know, but we can figure that out. We have math that will show you that. And then it allows you to make an informed decision with a sense of confidence and power rather than right now just living victimized by fear and uncertainty. So that's why you need to call us. This is what we do every day, is help people figure out little conundrums like this. And we're happy to help those people who are our clients resolve those questions as well.
Great. Barry, we're down to our last minute. Do you have any final thoughts, or do you have a verse of scripture you'd like to share with us to close the show, or anything like that?
Well, Ralph, I didn't come prepared with a verse of scripture necessarily. I think the whole book is pretty good. And so I would just encourage you to read it. Although now that I'm thinking about it, kind of my favorite. I've got several favorites. You know, people always talk about your favorite Bible verse. Yeah. And it's like, well, I don't know if I have a really favorite Bible verse, but I do have one that is a thematic that's informed on my life. And that verse is found in John chapter 10, verse 10. It's where Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. I got to tell you, folks, God is for you. He cares about you. You matter to him. He is not a killjoy in the sky waiting to step on you. And I know sometimes we religious people make it seem like that. No, that's not it. He's for you. Jesus said, I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And it would be my thrill to help you get to know him and the abundant life that he offers.
Oh, I'm glad I asked you that, Barry. What a way to end our program here. Friends, thank you so much for joining us. That is it for our hour. We'll get back to services and more programming right here. So I hope you'll join us again next Sunday morning here. This is Ralph Hipp for Barry Watts and his whole great team at the Wealth Care Corporation. Thanks for joining us. Watch us on TV, and that's this weekend's Watts on Wealth.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-5255. 3500. That's 417 200 3500. And join us again next week for What's on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.